All right, good afternoon. I was doing a little thumbing around on the internets this morning, and I'm to understand that we've had 1.7 million unofficial, because the administration won't release official numbers, or at least not in an accurate fashion near as I can tell. But approximately 1.7 million border encounters and crossings since Biden took office. Unprecedented. There's no justification for that. And there are plenty of interviews going on down there where the people from 47 or more nations had got the message from the Progressive Socialist Democrat Party in America, not of America. You're not of America if you're a progressive socialist. Get that right on the table. By the way, if you're voting Democrat, you need to question that. You really, really do. Anyway, and then somewhere in those numbers, they're admitting that roughly 526,000 have been released, have made it across and been released. We also have reports of the Fed sneaking people into major cities under the cover of darkness. I don't know. Maybe that's just when the bus arrived, huh? Just a coincidence, I'm sure. And remember, there's 47 or more nations using our southern border because it's a sieve. And so we're not. This isn't an issue about people in North America not liking Mexican people. It's not about that. It's not even about brown people. Now, typically, unfortunately, out there in shithole land, it does seem that brown people are more affected by their corrupt, despotic, tyrannical governments. And that's what they're fleeing. But when you hear those of us, I'm a libertarian. I would love to have an open border. I believe people should be able to move freely around the globe. Of course, come to think of it, they've put me on a no-fly list. I've been wrestling to get my real ID so I can get on an airplane after 2023 legally in the country that I've lived in for 61 years, and I'm having trouble getting that done. I just faxed off a bunch of crap, and I'm still going to have to go in to a Department of Motor Vehicle office to finish the process after I receive my email in approximately 4 to 5 days, which I have not received permission from them yet to take my documents in and have them. I worked for the federal government for 16 years with a secret clearance, and I have to prove who I am? Amazeballs. Anyway, our objection to the border problem is that if you don't have a sovereign nation has borders, and the world is a hostile place. And of course, this is when the progressive socialist Democrats say, yeah, because Americans went out there with their imperialism and their colonialism and made it hostile. Hey, it was the progressives that started that crap. So, your Teddy Roosevelts and your Woodrow Wilsons and that whole ilk, and we won't even get into it. Well, we'll stay out of that. But our objection isn't about the brown people. Our objection is about what's going on. We have a political party in this nation that wants to change the demographics of our country. And when you hear that, the first thing, see, he's a racist, he doesn't like brown people. No, because that's not the demographic that they're changing. As it so happens, many of the impoverished people indeed maybe have higher melanin content from some of the places that they come from. But that's not what we're objecting to here. We know what's going on. By the way, we know that they typically do vote left. Legal immigrants tend to at least be part of the process where they learn something about where our natural rights come from as codified in the Constitution of the United States of America, whereas an illegal that never goes through that process would never be exposed to the concept of self-ownership, which we've discussed before. And they're fleeing tyrannical governments who they've always placed their lives in. They don't know any different. That's what we are objecting to. Or they haven't been exposed to what is the right to self-ownership. How does that tie into a functioning representative republic? I can remember being none of the school teachers I had certainly bandied, and some college professors bandied the freedoms we enjoy. They bandied that around a lot, but I don't think that many of them knew where they came from. I know this because when I tried to bring up John Locke or Ayn Rand in a philosophy class, they didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to hear from me. The only class I have an incomplete in at the college level is philosophy, because I wasn't going to sit there and be taught what they wanted me to know about certain philosophers, but we're not going to spend too much time with Aristotle, John Locke, or Ayn Rand. So anyway, who got accused of being elitists when in fact the people that are running the shit show now are the progressive socialist democrat elitists. And that leftist elitism is much more pervasive around the globe. Hence, this is where many of these people are fleeing from, these tyrannical governments. And unfortunately, they don't bring with them. They don't bring with them the philosophy of self-ownership, which is the fundamental bottom line relative to how we approach, and even how our founders approached the codification of this representative republic. Which was supposed to be a rights-respecting republic. And the right starts with the individual, not with the collective. And we'll talk more about that with another video. So the demographic that they're changing, yeah, sure, a bunch of these folks will vote, whether they're legal or not. In blue states, for sure, huh? But that's some of the numbers. But the real thing that the progressive socialist democrats, you have to understand about them. Progressivism was to move us progressively away from the constraints of a constitutionally limited representative republic and towards the living and breathing government. It's not a living and breathing document. It's not supposed to be. I could take you right through Article 1, Section 8 of the enumerated powers and translate them into a few things. I'll give you one example. There's a provision for post roads. I would say that given the size and the scope and the mobility that we currently enjoy, not much longer, as we go electric, by the way, that's to curtail mobility. But let me get off of that. You could make a case for post roads being an interstate highway system. But as soon as it drops off an off-ramp into a city or a county, that should be the city, county, and state's responsibility. A conversation not had. Every city, every municipality is vying for federal dollars to get their roads fixed. But anyway, let's finish up with this. So when we say that the Progressive Socialist Democrat Party in America wants to change the demographic, I'm not even talking about the voting demographic. I'm talking about the philosophical anchorage, which most of these folks have never been exposed to, whereas the right of the individual is paramount. The right to self-ownership is paramount, which is under assault globally, and hell, half of you are buying into it, right? Where's your mask? Why aren't you vaccinated? Blah, 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 blah. That's all done in the absence of the right to self-ownership. And most of these folks that are coming and now being allowed in, and encouraged, by the way, it's to destroy the Progressive Socialist Democrat Party in America. They are the destroyers. And they've always had a problem with our way of life. Gosh, I go back to the 60s. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. What paradise did we pave to put up a parking lot? Or John Lennon's, imagine all the people living, no. I wish we could imagine that, but the fact of the matter is the world is a very hostile and divided place. It's bullshit. And that utopian vision has been stuck in their craw for a long time. And the sky is falling, big oil's bad. All of a sudden they love big pharma though, don't they? Big chemical, big ag, blah, blah, blah. How do you think you feed 360 million people? And more, by the way. We export a ton of our grain in particular. How do you think you feed them without big ag? Now, granted, they get far too many subsidies and are far too cronied up for my preference, but that's a whole different discussion. But what they aim to change is the philosophical underpinnings of a nation, which the Progressive Socialist Democrats, they're self-loathing. They think we've had it too good for too long. That's been going on since post-World War II, the 60s with Johnson's Great Society. There were tons of socialists working behind the scenes on that, to shift us away from a business economy to a government-based based. It's not an economy if government does it. It's just tyranny. And bureaucracy, the merciless bureaucracy. So that's the shift. That's the shift where those of us who are liberty-minded are afraid of. And you can see it because most people buy into get the rich, big government, statism. These are the things that they think that government is going to save them. These are the people that government thinks is going to save them. And unfortunately for this 1.7 million people and more who are going to be let in, they if they're not seeking legal citizenship, they're not going to be exposed to the tenets of individual self-ownership and liberty that this nation was founded on. And again, one party in this country is banking on that. And it's sad. I think, by the way, buckle up, gang. I don't think it's going to get any better. If we get any kind of spike with the Gung Fu flu in the next month or two because it's wintertime and they're going to push everybody back indoors again, for work or whatever, we'll see. Anyway, y'all have a good day. Don't get any on you. And if you do, have fun doing it.